Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking math for business and finance and math applications. And we're doing the chapter 9, which is payroll, and this is the second video, and this is the theory aspect of doing payroll. So in the last video, we talked about why there's payroll and why we have deductions and the relationship between a business, the individual, and the government. Okay. So now we're going to actually talk about, start with how you actually get paid. Okay, so when you, the individual, go to work, you're going to be paid in some fashion, an agreed upon amount between you and the business. Right? Here's the business, and here's you. Right? So you're going to agree upon how much you're going to be paid in order to perform the task, how much you're going to be paid in order to perform the task for the business. How much you get paid is called your gross pay. And the gross pay, I mean, a lot of this is going to sound, repetitive. You're going to be accustomed to it because you've heard it before. It's kind of like hard not to know how to be paid to a certain extent because you're going to be you're going to be agreeing upon it. However, maybe there might be something in here that you don't know. So I'll just cover the variety of different ways. Now, realize that in agreeing on how you're going to be paid as a gross pay is strictly between you and the business. I mean, the military, they get paid a set amount depending upon their rank, whether they're a private, a corporal, a sergeant, a captain, a major, whatever, they get paid a specific amount once a month. And then they also get paid additional things like housing allowances and things like that. That's the agreement between them and, the military. Salespeople, they generally get paid either a commission or a commission withdraw because they're salespeople. Bookkeepers generally get paid dollars per hour. Same with someone who works in McDonald's. So how much and how things happen are really only set in stone between you and the business. But because a lot of the positions are the same, they fall into different categories that we can just generalize and say, okay, this is how we calculate our gross pays. For example, and the first one here is our hourly rate. Well, in that last video, we said, okay, I'm going to agree to be paid $10 an hour, for 40 hours a week, all right? And if I do that, 10 times the 40 means I'm going to get paid $400 per week, okay? That's simple. That's an hourly rate, and this is called your straight rate. But now you have an issue of things like overtime and double time, okay? And now especially this brings up two things in my mind. First, I see in bookkeeping a lot of, the bookkeepers will receive a time card, okay? And let's say on the time card, there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, okay? And when they receive the time card, the person will put down 8 hours every single day because that's what, they're working, 8 hours a day, that's 5 days a week, that's 40 hours right there, okay? But let's just say Thursday and Friday happen to be holidays, all right? Let's say it's Thanksgiving, right? And Thanksgiving happens on a Thursday, and the business is also closed on a Friday. Well, the employees will put down 8 hours for those 2 days, and all of a sudden the bookkeeper is asking and saying, well, don't they get paid double time because there's 8 hours written on the card? It's not, the employees are going to put on their time cards whatever they want, okay? And that's why you see them, you have the clock that punches the time on the time cards, so that it's up to the bookkeeper who knows how much that employee is supposed to be paid 10 hours at 40, for 40 hours a week, If the person only works 36 hours, then they're only going to get $360. But when they come down here and they have this here Thursday and Friday, which are holidays, they don't get double time if their employee doesn't work. Okay, just because they write it on a card and they're supposed to get paid 8 hours for holiday pay, right? It doesn't mean they get the holiday pay for Thursday and the holiday pay for Friday, plus whatever the employee put on the card. No, they don't get paid the double time there, okay? They only get paid for the 40 hours they work because they're not working on those holidays. They're paid holidays, okay? So just be aware that it's up to the bookkeepers to decide to make sure that the employee is being paid exactly what they're supposed to be paid, okay? Now, the other issue here becomes overtime. What's that considered? And again, this is all about an agreement, right? Here's Thursday and here's Friday. Let's say the employee works 9 hours on Monday, 10 hours on Tuesday, 8 hours on Wednesday, 7 hours on Thursday, and 8 hours on Friday. So let's see here. That's 16 and 5, 16 and 7 is 23, and 9 is 32. Carry my 3. So they've worked 42 hours during the week. Now, again, as far as overtime is concerned, it all depends upon the agreement between the owner and the business. It can be, I'm going to present two different scenarios. The most likely scenario is that at the end of the week, any hours over 40 hours is going to be paid at overtime. So for this first scenario 1, okay, the employee is going to be paid 40 hours of regular and 2 hours of overtime. Okay, and overtime is generally a time and a half, meaning they get paid 1.5 hours because the hourly rate is 1 hour, overtime is 1.5, and double time is 2 hours. So in scenario 1, which is the most common, because they worked 2 hours more during 2 hours over and above the 40 hours during the week, they'll get that 2 hours as overtime. However, in scenario 2, it is possible for the employee to be paid on Monday 8 hours of regular time and 1 hour of overtime. On Tuesday, 8 hours of regular time and 2 hours overtime. On Wednesday, 8 hours of regular time. Thursday, 7 hours of regular time. And Friday, 8 hours of regular time. So they're going to actually be paid 3, 4, 32, 39 hours of regular time and 3 hours of overtime. Okay. Right. So that is a possibility also. I mean, they both worked 42 hours. I mean, in both scenarios, there's 42 hours there. Okay. But how they get paid depends upon, the situation. Now, it depends upon the agreement between the employee and the business. Now, the government does step in and does have something to say about this because they don't want to get involved with slave labor. Okay. So they do have a tendency to say, okay, scenario 1 is more in effect. All right. Any hours above 40 hours gets paid at overtime. Okay. Now notice that in scenario 2, it actually costs the business more money than it does in scenario 1. Right? They're paying that employee more money than in scenario 1, even though they're working the same number of hours. But the government is going to step in and say, hey, we don't want slave labor. We'll go along with the 40 hours during the week as regular time, and then anything over and above that is overtime. Okay. So, I mean, you can have a day where the employee works 15 hours for that day. Okay. I mean, if they work 15 hours, they're working on, people think, oh, they're getting 7 hours of overtime. Well, maybe and maybe not. Maybe they worked 15 hours, 15 hours, and 15 hours, and then they have Thursday and Friday off where they're not getting any hours. So they work 45 hours and they get paid 40 at regular and 5 at over. Okay, even though really during those 3 days they're working 7 hours extra each and every day. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is that when it comes to how you calculate your hours, you do really have to, make sure that you understand what you're getting into when you're actually being hired. Um, and what I see happen a lot is uh, employees will go and they'll get hired at an hourly rate, and then when it comes to holidays and things like this, or they're having to work overtime, they don't really know what they're supposed to be being paid, and then they're kind of being, they're finding out what they got themselves into. Okay, they might find them, like wait staff in banquet facilities, waiters and waitresses, they work such weird, crazy hours because, like on Saturdays and Sundays, they're going to be working 12 to 15 hours because that's when all the functions are in banquet facilities. But during the week, they're working almost nothing. Okay, and then they're trying to figure out how much they're going to be paid. Well, oh, I worked 12 hours this day, I should be getting 4 hours of overtime. No, right? There's they might have only worked 36 hours during the week, and they're getting 36 hours of regular time, and they're thinking they should get 4 hours of overtime because they worked 12 hours that day. Okay, no, they end up with the 36 regular, and that's what I mean by understanding how you're getting paid. Okay. The agreement between you and the business as far as your hourly rate, as to what is involved in your hourly rate. Okay, the rest of these, I'm at 12 minutes, so I'm going to kind of go through these pretty quickly here because they're not that difficult. The hourly rate is the one that's most difficult because it's always a constant calculation. All right, straight piece rate. What that means is you get paid to do a specific thing and you get a specific amount. So let's say you're I don't know, sewing shirts, okay? And you have to sew the buttons on a shirt, okay? And let's say you get paid $1 for every shirt that you do, right? So at straight rate, you're not getting paid an hourly wage. You're not getting paid a salary wage. You're getting paid upon your units of production. Okay, so if you, during the course of the week, if you do say 400 shirts, well, at $1 an hour, you would get paid $400, and that's during the whole week. Okay, well, what if during the week, you have a lot of work on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you do 400 shirts for some reason, but there's almost nothing to do on Friday, Thursday and Friday. Okay, well, you'd still only get paid $1 for each shirt, and you get paid the $400. That's what straight piece rate is. You're being paid for units of production. The next one, which is differential pay, is basically a scale. In other words, it's saying, okay, if you do between 1 and 100, maybe you get $1. Okay, if you do between 100 and 150, you might get $1.50. And from 150 to 200, you get $2, and anything over 200, you get 2.25, say. Okay, so depending upon how many units you produce, okay, will determine what scale you're on and how much you would get paid for per unit. That's differential pay. Okay, this idea behind a straight piece rate and differential also kind of applies. The thinking is, and the concept is the same for commissions, and these two apply mostly to salespeople. If I have a straight commission with or without draw, in other words, let's say I sell cars, and for each car that I sell, I get $100. Well, that's my straight commission. So during the course of a month, and usually, it would be a monthly kind of thing. It makes no sense to do it on a weekly basis if you sell cars. If you sell, say, 15 cars in the month, you would get $1,500, right? So your commission is based upon, again, your units of production. Now, if so at the end of the month, you get that check for $1,500. That's without a draw. But, to be paid, some people don't want to be paid once a month. So what they get is a draw, meaning, let's say every other week. So that's twice a month. Maybe they'll get a draw of $500, meaning they'll get paid $500 so they can pay some of their bills during the course of the month, and they're not waiting, once a month in order to get paid. Well, in that case, what happens is they're, if, let's say they get a commission of $100 and they sell 15 cars, meaning they get $1,500 at the end of the month. But twice during the month, they were being paid $500. So that means they were paid $1,000. Okay, so they subtract that out because they're really only due the $1,500. And so at the end of the month, they'll get an additional paycheck for $500 because this amount was a draw. They draw down on what their commission was. Okay. The variable commission scale, is like it follows along the same line as differential pay, in that maybe they might get $100 on the first 20 cars, okay? And then if they sell more than 20, right, they might get $150 a car, right? And so there's a scale for that, and that would be a variable commission scale, right? Very similar to the differential pay. The more that they sell, the more that they get per commission. Or, the thought just popped into my head, they might get a bonus, okay? They might still get paid $100, per car, and let's say they sell 15 cars for the month, okay? So they get the $1,500. But if they've sold, maybe the company has a bonus scale where if they sell greater than 10 cars, right, they might get an additional $1,000 as a bonus. Okay, so now that employee would get the $1,500 plus the $1,000, and they'd end up with $2,500 for the month. Okay, so you can see how, again, these are just general guidelines, general categories as to how somebody gets paid, but it really does boil down to exactly what is determined between the employee and the employer. And of course, the last category here is salary and salary plus commission. So salaries are generally your executives, your managers, things like that. I get paid, $4,000 a month, right? Or if you're lucky, $250,000 a year. Okay, that salary, and that can go into a lot of different areas. You can add stock options and whatever have you. I mean, again, it's all, an agreement between the business and the employee. The last category being here is the salary plus commission, meaning this would fall under a lot of people who have, are salesmen. They'll get paid that $2,000 a month as their salary, and then, they'll get a commission, right? And let's just use the cars again. They might get $100 per car, okay? And depending upon if they sell 8 cars, they'd get $800. And so their final pay at the end of the month would be $2,800, okay? And maybe this $2,000 was paid, bi-weekly at $1,000 each week, right? So at the end of the month, they would only get paid the $800 because they were already paid the $2,000, which is very similar to the straight commission with the draw. Okay, so the point being here is that when you're looking for work and you're going to work for somebody else, or if you're on the opposite side of the coin where you're hiring somebody else, you should have a good idea as to exactly how you're going to be paid. These are just general categories, okay? These are all just general categories, and they're all negotiable to a certain extent. Okay, it's not written in stone. All right. Like I said, the hourly employee, who's getting paid $7 an hour can negotiate for $7.25. Maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't. Salary people, same thing. Executives do it all of the time. Managers do it all of the time. Piece rate is generally, just a dollar amount. But the point is that everyone determines, they need to know exactly how they're going to be paid and understand it. Okay. So with that said, I'm 20 minutes into this video, so I will pick up in the next video.